Okay, it is 6:30, and I'm going to call this meeting to order. Any changes, additions to the agenda?
Just that the community use of school facilities is not ready yet on the VSBA website.
Okay,
Lori noted that on the agenda, but as soon as it's there, I'll let you know.
and it's hard to talk about something that's not there.
Yeah.
Okay, approval of the minutes. Kind of got into some sort of thing that I remember Elizabeth talking about. So we're going to approve these separately. I can't really remember what it was, but it was something that brought up with procedure. So I will take a motion to approve the minutes for June 26, 2023.
So moved, Davis.
For a second.
I didn't read it.
Oh, that's okay.
I get it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any discussion?
I was here. But I just,
I do have to say that whoever's taking the minutes is doing a great job.
Leanna Robinson
Yeah.
from Weatherford, she's awesome. Yeah.
I agree.
Hearing no discussion, I will call for a vote. As it's not policy, we will do a vote, voice vote. All in favor of approving the minutes of June 26, 2023, please say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Any abstentions?
I abstain. I wasn't there.
Okay. Okay. August 7th, 2023, the retreat. I will take a motion to approve those minutes. Cool. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Just making a quick count. We do have a quorum here. Yes.
I was just doing the same.
Yeah. Any discussions about regarding the minutes for August 7th, 2023? Okay. All in favor of approving the minutes of August 7th, 2023, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Any abstentions?
Me again, on vacation.
Okay.
Jamie, I'm also an abstention.
Okay. Thank you. Public participation. Public comments is not legally required, but we believe it is crucial for us to hear from our community members about their concerns over issues. Through these meetings, our board models for our students how to conduct public discourse, and that the board and members of our community can approach controversial issues in a civil and constructive manner and can demonstrate mutual respect. Having said that, please note that the board is here to listen. The public comment period is not designed for discussion. Please start by identifying yourself and what town you reside in. Okay. Beth? Roy?
I actually don't have a comment other than, is there a way you can just tell me who's in the room there? Because I can't really see on the full owl of like who's actually present.
Okay. So is anyone here for public comment?
Well, just even the board members, like I don't know who's there.
Oh.
You can't really see anyone well in the little thing in the above. I
I'm
see
here.
Davis.
Angie's here. Rebecca, Larry, Nicole, Megan,
Katie. Tracy.
and Dave.
Davis, and Christine.
Great to see you all, or hear you all.
Public comments from the room.
It'll take about 2 minutes.
That's okay.
My name is Tony Picrominos. I live in West Windsor. Hi. First, I want to say that although I strongly disagree with you on a couple of important issues, I very much appreciate your service. I do not doubt your good intentions. During the June 26 WSESU board meeting, a member of the admin team listed the various trainings that staff participate in. One of the school board members seemed surprised that staff don't undergo, quote, automatic implicit bias training. The admin team member responded by saying the SU doesn't have implicit bias training, quote, at this time. Before the SU sinks more taxpayer dollars into what many consider highly questionable methods of fighting racism and inequality, I would encourage board members to look at the 20+ pages of articles, papers, and studies I will email you this evening, which show that implicit bias training uses flawed testing that is imprecise, is susceptible to error, is non-predictive of behavior, and can have negative side effects in the workplace. I think we can all agree that subjecting staff to defective training is certainly not the best use of their time. I respectfully ask that you begin reviewing the best available evidence on all sides of these very important issues before committing to a course of action that will have profound consequences for the children in your care. I urge you to consider the possibility that you and the consultants that you hire may be mistaken about these matters. I urge you to consider the possibility that your approach to fighting racism and inequality not only doesn't work, but also harms kids and only serves to create more division, not the unity that you seek. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Tony. Is there anyone else online? What would be the proper term? Remote, who has public comments? Okay. Administrative report.
All right. Davis, I did make you a co-host in case somebody wants to get in.
I was wondering about that.
Yeah, because I won't be able to see it.
Sure. Yeah, I'm happy to do that.
Thanks.
All right. Okay. Good evening. All right. The first thing I wanted to bring up is the board operating principles. We were going to revisit them from the retreat. I did add, we will presume positive intentions. Bill mentioned, I added the stakeholders in red, and then I changed the last norm or principle about micromanagement. I softened that language a bit. We don't have to discuss it now. I wanted to bring it to you so we can maybe come back next month and discuss. Is that okay, Bill?
Yeah.
Okay.
Christine, can you read the last one?
Yeah, sure.
We will be mindful of the different roles and responsibilities throughout the school system and maintain a focus on policies and governance.
Governance, yes.
Love it.
Instead of, we will support the administration by not engaging in micromanagement.
Right.
Sounds a lot nicer. So, okay, we'll bring that back. I also shared 2 procedures with you. And if you didn't notice, Lori's going to link my report to the agenda, so you'll have it ahead of time. So if you want to look at those procedures, yeah. There was the tobacco procedure. I got some feedback from Bill on making sure that we define tobacco substitutes, because there are lots of them. So I'll do that. And then there was one on procedures for student records, and Bill mentioned that by law, we have to inform parents that they have, it could be just in our handbook, that they have the opportunity to opt out of sharing their demographic information annually. So I will add that to that procedure as well. And they should be good to go. Yeah, okay. And what we decided was, once the board has a chance to read them and offer comment, Larry's gonna have them linked to the policy in the portal. Did I get that right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it'll just be one document. They'll say, if for ones that have procedures,
Yes.
it'll say procedures, policy, student records and procedures.
Yep. So it'll be,
All one PDF. It'll be at the bottom. Unless you guys want to go a different way.
So I saw that. I like it.
okay,
Yeah.
good. So that's our plan. Yeah. Okay.
That way they don't have to keep going.
Yeah, now for the fun stuff. We opened school for staff. We welcomed 54 new staff members to Windsor Southeast Supervisory Union, which is a high number. We had a new faculty orientation last Thursday, and we changed it up a little bit this year based on feedback from the prior year. New staff wanted more time with their mentors. So we did, and some of you have heard me say this, prior to that date, staff have come in and met with Tina and Brittany and had some onboarding, some training, had a chance to ask questions, and they were given access to a Google Classroom where they had lots of things, welcome messages from leaders and information on how we do things around here. And the last assignment was a link to a website. So we're really trying to make sure they're informed and have what they need to be successful with us. So we had some fun with them, and they all received a welcome gift, which was a nice WSESU lunchbox. And they were very, very appreciative. And the staff members who were there that weren't new were very envious. So, and then Friday, we opened school to all staff. The picture in the middle is Ricky Hempel. He has worked for Windsor for more than 45 years. He was honored for 45 years of service with a guitar, and he was so touched and almost made me cry. But I saw him today, and he said he's been playing every day. And I told him Friday that he would be, playing for the staff next year at the Welcome practice.
Did he say he was retiring?
No, he did not. He did not. And then we tried to really show gratitude and honor staff with Years of Service Awards. We had a little fun, played some Kahoot. Tracy and Mary Gannon presented for about an hour and 15 minutes. Introduction to a little bit of the equity audit and our plan for that. Tracy introduced herself. She was magnificent, I have to tell you. Great speaker, and just told her story, and very authentic and approachable. And I think staff really felt that. So it was a good day Friday. Today we were in, yes.
And I just
Sure.
wanted to say something about that. I attended and it was wonderful. It really sort of felt good being with staff, talking with staff, sharing with staff, hearing the presentations, making those connections. But what I really appreciated is that the theme that the school will hopefully be working on over the year in terms of making sure that this environment, our school environment, is a place that all kids can feel that they belong, really came through. And I think that was one of the issues in the audit that talked about, staff, are they getting the same message? And if nothing else, it becomes an issue to talk about. And you gave folks an opportunity to start talking about something that they all heard.
Yeah.
And so that should be pretty exciting. But I do want to thank you for that entire presentation.
Absolutely.
That was wonderful.
And thank you for coming. There were a few board members that made it, which was lovely. And that's a great segue, Elizabeth. I was going to announce our theme for the year is belonging, which I did put in my newsletter to families, and we'll keep reiterating it. But we, just in our work around our strategic plan, we've really been focusing on student success and engagement. and recognized last year when we were doing our walkthroughs that, and having meetings and working with parents and students, that there are a lot of kids that don't feel like they belong, that they're included, that they're represented, that they're having their needs met. And so we're shifting our priority goal to culture and student and staff. I like to add wellness. And this is to bring that all together. Everybody needs to feel like they belong in our school. So you'll hear us talking about it over the course of the year. And, you know, we got to figure out a way to measure it, really, just to make sure that we're really making everybody feel that sense of belonging. But it was a great start. Felt very positive, and I think I was today just looking at the end of that presentation, I asked all the staff to do a quick survey, direction alignment commitment, just to see where we're at. And we did it last year as well, and it looks like so far that we're making gains in direction alignment commitment, which was very positive. Last year, you recall, there was a task. I can't remember who gave it. Oh, it's going to escape me, but it was find the vision and mission, and the board couldn't do that, as you recall. It looked at documents. So we worked with Mike Nicholson. Last year, a group of people worked with Mike Nicholson over the course of the year. There were 4 meetings. Rebecca you came to a couple of the meetings, some staff, some administrators, some parents. And over the course of those 4 meetings, we revisited the strategic plan and the competencies, and really talked about what we do here. And this is the statement that we came up with: engaging hearts and minds for a limitless future. WSCSU, where students want to learn, staff want to work, and families want to live. We also came up with some mission statements, and I'll read them because I think they're important. WSCSU is a diverse community of learners where every learner has the potential to be a leader. Students have strong voice in shaping their school experiences. Learning is personal, connected, and relevant. High expectations exist in caring, nurturing environments. Individuals grow into larger communities while also broadening a sense of self. Positive relationships define the interactions between school and the community. Students get better at making decisions by making decisions. And each student and staff member is able to bring their full self to the learning experience. So these went out to staff for comment. They'll go out to parents after this meeting for comment, and board members as well. And we'll see if that sticks, and that's what we want to be known as. This is who we are, this is what we do, this is what we believe. So you'll get that in a survey after this meeting. I also wanted to share that the administrative team has partnered with the University of Washington Center for Educational Leadership, it's a mouthful, in a cohort called Leading Equitable Schools. We had our first meeting last Monday. It was virtual. They're going to be here at our next meeting. And we're really, the goal of the work is, one, we're going to develop new ways to privilege student, parent, and community voices regarding the experiences they have and want to have in school, which is very important. Draft visions of equitable student experiences, learning opportunities, teaching practices, and teacher learning experiences that address the needs of all learners, and particularly those students furthest from justice. A shared understanding of why building teacher collective efficacy can lead to more equitable school practices, and deeper reflective practices that emphasizes self-awareness and identification of biases, privilege, and power dynamics. So we're really excited about this work. Our first assignment before our next meeting at the end of September is to dig through the data, find some students that may not have their voices heard often, and we're going to be sitting with them and hearing from them, which is our first assignment. So I heard a hand, I can't see. Elizabeth, you had your hand up?
Yes, it was I.
Hi.
Hi. Would you mind sharing with our board that agenda that you just read out loud?
Yes.
Your goals
Yeah, definitely. It's in my presentation, and that is a link. So if you click on this,
Okay, great.
Thank you.
You'll have more information about it. Yeah, absolutely. Well, you'll keep hearing about that as the year goes on, but we're very excited about that work. I'm bringing back the cell phone procedure update. It went out to families, it went out to staff. We've talked about it. We've determined K-8, no phones, no electronic devices, smart watches during school. We have some protocols that are in place if a student forgets or makes a choice to take out a phone. And at the 9-12 level, we're going to allow students to use their cell phones during their lunch period. You heard from a student about that. We understand they're young adults growing into the workforce, and they need to be able to be responsible and show that. So they will have the opportunity to use their phones at lunch. Elizabeth?
Yep. Sorry. I promise I won't pepper you with questions all the way through, but how long is the lunch period?
30 minutes, I believe.
So
it is 30 minutes.
Here's a question. If students only have their 30 minutes to use their cell phones during lunch period, could you please make sure that you keep track of the impact on socialization among students?
Yeah. Yep. Sure thing. Yep.
And then piggyback.
And lunch being eaten.
And lunch being
eaten. Yep.
Sorry, Bill, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just wanted to emphasize eating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good thing to eat when it's lunchtime, right? Yes, and we'll kind of monitor how it goes and tweak it as need be. But I think staff are happy. I've had some parents that are really appreciative that we're going to take this stance. And we know that we all have to stand strong and be consistent, or it will fall apart. So. And this is this came up at the Wethersfield board meeting, and Mark is here. He may want to speak to it. Wethersfield has had a really hard time finding and hiring a health teacher part-time. And so the question was asked, is there interest in an SU-wide health position? I know that at Heartland, the PE teachers teach health. They fit it in when they can. At Windsor, there is not health is not being taught by the PE teachers, and Wethersfield and ABS as well. So, Mark, did you want to speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I apologize if the quality's not very good. I'm in my car on my way back from dropping a kid off at college, but who graduated from a middle school in this district without basic health education. And it seems like we've always had a hard time finding the budget for it. And then even when that was possible at Wethersfield, we've had a really hard time finding any kind of applicants for it. So if it's a role that's being filled in the SU as a whole, and anybody can offer any tips on how we might fill those vacancies for what we would like to have, or even just a loose brainstorm on how it is we can share that resource of that educational skill. It's lacking in one of our schools in the district. So any input and ideas that people have, I'd love to entertain. Thank you.
It's lacking in multiple schools in the district. The other thing to consider, I know that it kind of goes along with the health realm. We have a new nurse at Windsor. She comes from Woodstock, and I know they're a single district, but she did mention, is there a possibility of bringing the nurses to the SU level? So something to consider, and if you'd like us to look into that, we will, but that would be impact the SU budget and local budgets offset. So
could the nurses ever teach health?
No, but the nurses could team with teachers to help teachers integrate health into the existing science and even social studies curriculum, and possibly even math, which is probably the most effective way to do it anyway, in many ways. But the nurses would require more time.
Right, I was going to say, it would be hard in their day, as is.
So just sort of a quick review for those of us not in the know, what's the nursing coverage in the different buildings?
So Windsor has a full-time
Mhm.
and also an assistant, an LNA, I believe. Heartland has a full-time. Weathersfield has a full-time, and Albert Bridge actually has a full-time nurse. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they can't teach health because they're not teachers.
They can't independently teach health. No, they're not certified.
Unless they're certified.
Unless they're
a health
certified.
educator.
And they're pretty busy during the day, and you never know what's going to come at the nurse. So.
Christine, I'm sorry, this is Mark. What's your feeling on this? Is this a role that's best suited SU wide by a shared individual? Or are you of like mind with me in that, our 248 students doesn't warrant a full-time health teacher? What are you seeing, from the top of the SU?
Yeah, I mean, I can see it working very well with it in a shared role. I think a lot of teachers who are getting certified in PE, you leave school with a dual certification now, health and PE, which helps, but it doesn't solve the problem because, we have PE standards. And so if you're teaching PE twice a week to every grade level in the school, it doesn't leave a lot of time for health. So at Heartland, they build it in, it's not enough. We've been trying to hire a full-time health teacher at the high school for 2 years. We haven't had applicants. So I think it would be great to share, Mark. I do have a concern that the applicants just aren't there. But making it a full-time position definitely entices more people to apply than part-time, for sure. So yes, I think we're of like mind.
I also like that idea, and I like the idea because I think if you could have a health instructor who can maybe focus on some of the issues that we know students are dealing with. I don't know what that curriculum would look like, but he's giving the same message to all of the students, and we can be assured that all of our students are getting this message, that it's not just this school or that school.
Yeah.
I think that would be reassuring, as if we felt really positive about the curriculum that's being taught. And there may be opportunities to collaborate with the nurse and also collaborate with the phys ed teacher. That would come after looking at what their responsibility would be. But we know already that our students are struggling with mental health issues, and our students are struggling with substance abuse issues. Our students are struggling with lots of different issues, and to just go without not having those issues addressed at all, or leaving it to. I just think it's like in our face. We know it. We've got, the documentation says this is a problem, folks, for your kids. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
And so I think it's an important position. I think that to have someone that's talking the same language to all of the kids, I think would be very valuable for all of our kids and all of our families.
Yeah.
I think kind of carrying on what Rebecca's saying, and thanks for that. I mean, I'm broadly in agreement. I think nodding to the idea too that a lot of health curriculum or health education curriculum gets integrated into other subject areas too, having that central person who is kind of owning that and developing that curriculum, being the curriculum expert. It makes sense to me that would be a full-time SU level person.
Yeah.
So yeah, I also am in favor of that idea.
I kind of go with the same mode of equity, okay, in which it really is a health and well-being is a overriding theme in which it should be permeated into every single thing.
Yeah.
And and not just within the classroom, but within the hallways, within the lunchroom and things like that, teaching those skills. Having a equity person is extremely important to be able to help others integrate that into their daily message. And so having a center person to help teachers integrate that into their daily message is really important. The simple fact that the only way to achieve something new and significant is integration, because teaching it in a fragmented way isn't going to work. And also, you remove, to add something to the classroom, something different, something new in any meaningful way requires something to be removed. There's only so much time on the plate. But if you're able to integrate your health lessons into science, writing, and literature, just the same as equity lessons into that, not only enriches the curriculum and allows for more engagement from students because it's a meaningful message, but it also doesn't pull something away that the students need.
It's very wise. Oh, yeah, absolutely right. So I think, Larry, you're going to start the budget process in
I'll be emailing the budget committee this week.
And is this something the board would like the budget committee to take on?
There's another, sorry, I just had,
sorry, Beth.
It's okay. Mark has his hand raised too. Is just a thought of, like, I've seen other SUs combine a health position with like a home economics position. So it's like you're teaching nutrition, you're teaching cooking, you're teaching sewing, you're teaching all the health stuff. So it kind of fits in with that. I've also seen it pair with farm to school in health as well, because then you're getting into, again, growing food, cooking food, and all that kind of stuff, aspect of nutrition in there too.
That's a great point.
So I'll put that on my list, and then that's the health aspect. What about the SU nurses aspect that the new nurse was asking for? Is that something the board would generally like the budget committee to look into? It would be an offset because they'd be zeroed out of your local budget, so it's not a new thing. But there is an assessment issue.
Yeah, and I guess that would be kind of anticipated what I would have thought, Larry. Like, are we talking about replacing the district level do we have part-time or full-time district level?
We have full-time district level in each building.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would we be augmenting those full-times with another full-time at the SU level, or would we be replacing those full-times?
Replacing those, yeah.
I think similar to what we did to a couple areas, such as maintenance, for example.
Food service.
Food service,
yeah.
One
Technology.
of the disadvantages of that is you lose some level of local control.
Yeah.
At the same time, some of the advantages of that, just like food service and maintenance, you're able to pool your resources where they're needed. Okay. So if there's an issue in one of the schools, then a health issue or even some sort of training issue, we can pool more than one health professional for that school in need.
Sure.
And then there's no disagreement or argument of, well, you know, our nurse had to go to Wethersfield for 3 days because they had an emotional crisis. For example, I'll be blunt. In the case of staff suicide, okay, it's tragic. In reality, things like that happen.
Yeah. And
your health professionals, as well as your counselors, really need to pitch in and focus on that staff and those students, because emotional trauma is a health issue. So that's the advantage. Is then there's no quandary about where those staff can or should be sent. The same thing with special ed, but we were forced to do that. At the same time, it's worked out quite well.
Sure.
So.
And this is, just to be totally clear too, this is reallocating FTEs.
Yes,
we're not like
from a dollar standpoint. It would be equalized. I can't guarantee that the difference would be, 1-to-1 for each individual district. Sure. But as a dollar figure, it's the same way Mount Scotty pays 60% of Christine's salary and Heartland pays 25% or 30% and Weathersfield pays 20 some odd percent.
Got
It
it.
would be very broken out that way.
Okay.
But as far as there'd be no new money, it would be,
Right.
the health teacher would be new money. But they would be offset, they'd be zeroed out of the local budget.
Okay.
Same way with tech, the same way we did with food, those were zeroed out of your local budgets.
Got it.
So we can look into it. I have not talked to all the nurses about it either, just it was brought up, so I thought I would
Very early stages, but
Yeah.
as I'm building it, it'd be better to
know.
build it
Yeah.
this way, and then if the board decides to go a different direction, I can take it out.
As a matter of, I don't want to say procedure, but that's the only one that pops to have. It would be nice, not necessarily next SU board, but possibly the one after, to hear from the 3 board chairs, what their opinion is,
Okay.
based on discussion with their individual boards,
Yeah, that's a great
how they
point.
feel.
Would it also make sense to hear from our nursing staff?
Yeah.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah.
And any health educators, because they're not all nurses, health educators.
Sure. Yeah, I think any of the key stakeholders, just get them in, hear from them. We can.
Would it be also important to hear from the board chairs regarding the possibility of a full-time health person for all of, I think that's important.
Yeah.
Their input is important in that.
Yeah.
also.
So not September, you want that in October?
Well, yes,
Okay.
because they're gonna have to put it in their own agendas
Yeah.
to discussion.
Yeah, in
down the road.
September.
So
Okay,
the wheels of procedures
Yeah.
move slowly.
okay. I think Mark had his hand up.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I just, to Bill's point, as far as integrating the health curriculum, I think it's something, I'm thinking about it in terms of the same way we looked at free lunch. I mean, we all said it couldn't be done, it wouldn't work, it's going to be too expensive. I have a feeling by the time you integrate a health curriculum that ties into everything else across K through 12, I think if we can successfully do this, it's really going to reap benefits that we really can't imagine. And that Bill's point about integration, really, and equity combined together, I think it's just going to turn out to be something that really grows in a beneficial way.
And finding a person to do it, I learned early on how to integrate really well. That's because I had a mentor who was a master teacher and a master integrator, okay? It's not something you just know how to do. It's something you need to be taught. And so having a person who knows how to do it, knows the curriculum, and then has the time to teach it,
That would be beneficial, for sure. All right, so we have our direction on that. I will talk to the nurses over the course of the month as well and invite them to come in October.
Yes.
Okay. All right, my last, oops, I guess you can't see it. So the question of the month that I was going to send out, I think I alluded to this last time, just getting the preferred method.
You also send an email to.
Somebody's getting out of their car, it sounds like. The preferred method of receiving information from your child's school is what I was going to gather. I just want to bring that to your attention, unless you want it worded a different way. But that's what I plan to send out and bring you back the results.
Can you
next
just
month.
read that again?
Yeah. What is your preferred method of receiving information from your child's school? If you want it to be a back and forth, like, what is your preferred method of communication?
I was gonna say, can we say information and
communication? Yeah.
Just to,
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, definitely.
Those are kind of different.
They are.
Yeah.
Yep.
But they both use a lot of the same channels.
Yeah. So if you're good with that, I'll make that change and send that out and bring you back the results at the September meeting with another question to pose. If you have any ideas, don't feel free to email me. What do you want to know? And then that's it. We'll take questions, or if there aren't any. Tracy's going to be the last part of the administrative report today. Okay. So let me see if I can get it. There it is.
And I think part of my wondering with how you all want to spend your time, dedicated time with DEI, is this something that you want my support on? Do you want to have at it? Is it a combination? What kind of topics would you want to cover if we do? So I thought of a couple things that I just want to throw out there, like this could be some draft ideas, and really also building off of something that you mentioned, Nikki or Nicole? Nikki. Like last time you were like, oh, we haven't celebrated like all the things that you've been working on over the last 3 years. So I was thinking like, why not have that be the theme for tonight's discussion? I'd be really curious to hear what you all have been thinking about, or something that you're noticing or want to celebrate about both yourself as an individual in this work, and then also about this team, and then something that you're excited about for this year. So I have those questions of, and then I just had a couple ideas. If you go to the next slide, these were just some possible themes, you know, that might fit along. And part of it's going to depend on, you know, as the structure and systems kind of taking shape in the schools, there may be something that comes out of what's happening there that would feed into maybe a topic for you all. So things might shift around. But just some of the ideas here. Alignment is a big one. I've fallen into the well of looking at all the things that you've all been doing over the last 3 years, because there's a lot, and there's like similar themes and priorities that are kind of like cross-referenced in a lot of those things, or like following up on, you all were talking about the work you did with Melissa Crum. There was like homework, and y'all were working on some things about the anti-racism policy, and then it's like, so finding all those threads and just pulling them through. So really a lot of this is just thinking about how to set you all up to practice, like to have, if there's something that's happening, you could use an equity filter to review it, right? You could like put some of the things that you're doing as a leadership team into practice. So a lot, I mean, it's like setting you up again, you'll see it's, we could talk about some of the alignment, the themes that are emerging from there, what that could look like to focus on priorities, how to be a champion for DEI, even in sharing your story, right? If you're going to see people, you have to talk to people all the time, right? About how this, do you feel, I think this came up last meeting, right? It's like, do you feel like you're in practice around how you would respond to what somebody would say, or how you personalize? So like that kind of practice. Equity filter, talking about accountability. So I guess I'll pause here, and I'm just wondering, how do you all want to spend this time? Would it be helpful? Like, and how can I support that? Not just today, but over time.
It's Elizabeth.
Yeah.
It's Elizabeth has her hand up.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead, Elizabeth. Yeah.
Again, I'm sorry. I think a really basic problem that we have is that we're not all on the same page. We've offered some trainings to board members, but not all board members have had those trainings. And so it might be good to kind of take another step back as well. Maybe do it, I don't know where to fit it in, but just to make sure that we're all speaking the same language.
Yeah.
My input sort of piggybacks up Elizabeth. I don't necessarily view it as a bad thing, as if we have different views of equity, but I agree the fact that we need to air our views and consider our views as a board, not necessarily all the same night, so that we can strengthen our mutual message.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And one of the things that shows up in a lot of places is having clear definitions for all the words. So that's definitely, I was just thinking about that. I know it doesn't show up on here, but I think that would be something. And that's one of the pieces where I know that the policies have draft definitions. I'm curious about like what the process was to get to there's like where input came from, and whether there's an opportunity to get some of the school-based groups involved, have you all be involved in really sort of sifting through the definitions for some of that. So I think that could definitely fit in here. I could also, like, I could send out a short, poll or something, you know, if you have different topics that you wanna cover. If you want me to help facilitate the 20 minutes or not.
I think-
would like help facilitate.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, that
I
goes
think we
without
need to answer that
question.
question.
Facilitating is like, in any group,
Yes.
even with a group of 2.
And also just knowing like 20 minutes is amazing that you all have dedicated this time, and 20 minutes is also not allowed to do a whole lot.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be somewhere, it's gonna be at both ends.
Uh-huh.
So other thoughts, what would be helpful, other topics?
Well, I also think that maybe being in the same realm, but within this room, there's amazing diversity in background experience. For us to share our understanding and perspective of educational equity and or other forms of equity, I think that's an education in itself. And then again, of course, to make that a functional process is facilitation.
Some of that could come in personalizing too. It's like how each one of you will speak from, you know, a different perspective about why this is important.
I would like the idea of, I'm not sure how others feel about this, but that if we're going to have this time, I would love for that idea to get to the staff. I don't know how that would happen, but that they would know that this is what the board is talking about. I think what starts happening is that we're all communicating. It's not only the board that's talking about this, but it's everyone. And I mean, and it's, I don't know how if we would post that a lot or put that in your superintendent's newsletter, but to be able to like, and to the community also, this is what the board is, you know, and it's like the language, and it's like they then also say, oh, but we then engage everyone in the school community.
So I think video, you know, if I'm gonna talk about my feelings of educational equity, I have no problem being recorded and then sharing that with the staff. To have the staff hear it or see it, what their board is talking about. I think it'd be very powerful. I'm not gonna speak for everyone here because I know not everyone has the same comfort of being the center of attention as I do.
Well, these would all work together, right? I mean, because I think there is like, you know, last time you were talking about the need to engage with community and how community, like transparency, like what does all that look like? And then the common language could be done in in collaboration with what's happening in the schools, and then the messaging, and then I think that all fits together.
And then of course, being able to not fight, but dispense the belief that we're talking about a very, very narrow vision of what equity is. In which, you know, we are advocating for critical race theory, something like that.
I feel like I love the list that you've started. But I also feel like we only have 20 minutes. And I feel like we don't need to code a hard list. Like we could start a discussion for 20 minutes, and then at the end of the 20 minutes, we'll have to cut ourselves off because we know we can go a lot longer. And then we say, okay, we're gonna come back to this, or we're gonna address this in our next discussion. So like having it be fluid and deciding at the end of every discussion what the next topic is.
Yeah.
But I feel like this is a great start too. So.
You know, the other thing that might be helpful is that you create little mini exit tickets or assignments for us to be at home around the terms, for example. And so then the next time we could ask you to clarify that. That's one place in which I feel weak on the vocabulary behind
Yeah, I could give like a short update too, you know, here's like what's been happening in schools, and then here's like an assignment. And it'll be short, but have that, maybe something that goes out before meetings.
I like that.
Anything else?
Probably. But a lot of good stuff's been said. You know, I think the idea of connecting whatever we're talking about in this space and at this level, I do like the idea of maybe not one-to-one, but trying to track with what's going on with kind of faculty implementation and those conversations, just because I think that it does get, you know, despite all of our best intentions and efforts, it's easy to get disconnected from that kind of stream, you know, and that discourse. So as much as we can, I think trying to, you know, if issues are coming up, you know, with the student body, with the faculty, trying to address those in, you know, reasonable time up here, having some similar conversations, engaging some of that same discourse would make sense.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that too, because we also, Mary and I are going to come to one meeting a month of the principals, like the principals get together, and we were thinking like that would be a great time to you know, try on some problems of or do something like that. So maybe it'd be great if we could find some alignment between what we're talking about with the principals and what we're talking about with the board.
Yeah.
Another point of connection.
I really appreciated the conversation at the open house, not at the open house.
The opening of school.
The opening of school, right? There was a question that Mary asked the teachers, and that didn't take very long. I mean, I think this was all wrapped up in like 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes. There were two. I was there for one, and one was asked of the staff, think of a time when you did not feel that you belong in school. You know, think of a time when, and I mean, I think the room was silent at that point, because I think that we all probably could think of a time, you know, or no, I think it was, think of a time when you felt you belong. And then she said, now think of a time when you felt you did not. What was going on? What was that? And we all were able, and that, I thought it was just powerful. And then she asked us to share with the person next to us. And then, I mean, but it all took like maybe 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes to wrap, you know, I gave you a few minutes, each one talked. But it was just so powerful, you know, just hearing from what the staff member was saying and what I shared. It was like, oh, wow. And then she just said, that's how, where some of our students are. And because I think that's what we want to do. We want to tie it back to our students. It's like, what's the experience of our students? So I think it can be done in 20 minutes. I think we can walk away.
And the work the administrative team is doing with the Center for Educational Leadership will likely tie in as well.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So many connections.
Yeah.
I want to celebrate that this is happening. Like, this is real now. Like, we're having our first discussion. It's a legit discussion, and like, it's been introduced in a holistic way to the staff. It's happening.
Yeah, it's nice. I really appreciate that you keep bringing up the idea of celebration, because I think that's something that gets overlooked, you know, and it's just like you keep going, and then you need to create those milestones. And that's a great segue into, if you all want to engage with a couple questions.
Next slide.
Yeah.
All right.
It's really thinking again about like, because, you know, just looking at there's a lot that's happened in the last 3 years. It seems like a lot of consultants have been hired, the equity audit, I mean, all these things have really been happening in the last 3 years. So I was wondering if anybody has noticed something that you want to celebrate or appreciate about yourself. Like maybe you had an aha, maybe there was a moment like of learning or growth or something, or a strength that you've noticed about yourself. Would love to hear that. And also maybe something that you've noticed about this team. Could be any way that y'all have come together working collaboratively on DEI. What's something that you've noticed or want to celebrate about the team?
I'll jump in there.
Yeah.
In this entire group, I am not the forefront leader in DEI. And when this whole process began, it didn't seem like an important process to me. Now, I'm not saying it didn't seem like an important, it wasn't my most important process. But the reality is, as we move forward, and I've had an opportunity to write a capstone and define my own educational goals, I have found that they align very closely. So that was sort of an epiphany to me, in which I was in the middle of a discussion with someone else about what I wanted, and realized that, you know, I'm talking about equity here, aren't I? So that was sort of a moment for me.
Yeah, thank you for sharing.
I remember we were in one of our meetings, the group that was, I think, meeting with Melissa Crum, and we were trying to understand what it felt like being in someone else's shoes, you know, besides our own shoes. And what I heard that night was some people acknowledging that they just could not imagine what it felt like to be in the shoes of someone that is not white, that is not privileged. They're saying, I just never saw what privilege really meant. You know, I've had, but they, you know, in our discussions, it was, but they didn't know what to say. I mean, they were just totally like, oh, and in that meeting, there was just such a feeling of just something being discovered, and not that anything was going, but just seeing that and having a conversation about that discovery, and it's, no plans were made to do anything else, but just being part of that conversation. And it was folks from this team, and I was, for me, you know, personally, it was like, wow, what a group, you know, what a group of people that, you know, that really want to know, you know. I thought that was powerful about this team, about people on this team.
I think I kind of shared this at the last meeting, but just when we started this work, knowing that doing the work of DEI was so important, and at that time I had volunteered to be the DEI coordinator, or not coordinator, like team leader, like I was organizing.
Jedi Master.
I don't think I ever got there. Still trying. You know, and so I knew that the work was really important, and I volunteered to help organize the team to move forward with the work. And but at the same time felt so absolutely lost. Like everything was so overwhelming, and being like, I can't believe that I just volunteered to like move us forward, because I can't think myself out of a box right now with respect to this work, and to feel calmer and like things are moving forward, and that I have an understanding of what the work is, and you know, to be doing it, you know, like my kids and I have discussions every day, and just to hear what comes back at me from them, their own thoughts when they're not with me, is just phenomenal, and like just cool. Good progress.
So, Colleen.
Yeah, Colleen.
Thank you. I am really excited. I think one of the things that's coming up for me right now is that there isn't any day that goes by that I don't hear or take in something that reminds me in some way or another how important this work is, and that we're right where we're supposed to be, and that I don't think, you know, it's something to rush, or that I I'm very proud of the way that we've approached this, um, and of the work I've done to be a part of that too. But I guess that's it. In my head, just kind of, I never, it's never not, there's not a day that goes by that I'm not in some way receiving some amount of validation about this work and how important it is to our globe, I guess is what I would say. Thank you.
Thanks, Colleen. I think we got, yeah, Elizabeth. Yeah.
Thanks for that, Colleen. I really appreciated hearing that. That was really very circumspect, and thank you for that. One of the things that I have noticed, or one of the things I've learned, is that our state is 8%, 8% racially diverse, but or 8% global majority, I guess, better way of saying it. But our students are actually 24%, and it's a stretch to understand that, and I think it's a stretch for our community members to understand the difference in demographics there. And but I see, I was talking with Tracy the other day, and also a couple of other people, about watching the brick fall, which is my way of saying, like, it's hard. One of the big challenges is that this work is really personal and requires a lot of personal introspection, and you have to have the bandwidth and space and time to do that. I think it goes in cycles for a lot of people, and it's hard, and you have to, sometimes you have to make yourself do it, and you don't know where everybody else is, and because it's so personal, and sometimes you have the ability to witness a brick falling down on somebody's head, where you see a light bulb go off and you see that they're actually getting it. It's a really rare occurrence, but I've seen that in this team, and I've seen it on this board, and it's really, there's something very precious about being able to witness that. And I've had the honor of seeing it more than once.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Beth? Yeah, Beth.
Thanks. Yeah, I guess I was really, really proud of us this past summer. I was having a discussion with a family member that lives in Texas, and they have kids in the school system there. And we were talking around a trans issue, and I said, oh, well, like, my kids know, I think, every letter in the LGBTQ plus, they know someone, that identifies as that, and either be it staff or students. And my relative was like, my kids don't know anyone. And I was like, they have to exist in Texas. And it was just, it just hit me of being like, what the work we have done to make our community, our schools, a safe place for these people, that, and how much of a gift that is for my family and our community as a whole.
Awesome, thank you, Beth.
Yeah, I think what I've seen in the time that I've been a part of this board and this institution is a real, regardless of where we're all coming from or where we are at with experience, definitions, like kind of role clarity around all this stuff. There's been a willingness to stay focused on the people who we are ultimately doing this work for, whether it's our students primarily, but also our faculty and our families and all, our entire community, our administration and each other. And I think that our collective willingness to have these conversations and to be vulnerable and to, and again, focus on the fact that I never feel like we enter into these conversations and we're discussing issues. We stay very, very focused on the fact that these are people that we are supporting with these DEI efforts. I think that makes a huge impact. I think, I think to the YRBS data that we heard, at a district level last week, which I think has gone out to all of our districts, that underscores the importance of this work in a really big way. And just that simple act of creating psychological safety in this space to be able to have those conversations and be vulnerable and do this at times difficult work, it's validating to the people who are genuinely having a difficult time right now. And if we can set that standard here and support those people from this point, it's a standard that extends beyond the work we do in this room. So I see that and I hear that from other stakeholders around in our community and students, faculty. I mean, it does make a big impact. And I think that, I am never someone who is comfortable to say that we are doing our absolute best. I think that, there's improvement is always a really good goal. And I think that continuing to have these conversations is incredibly important. But I do want to celebrate the fact that we've put in a lot of time and a lot of effort and had a lot of these conversations. And I'm looking forward to keeping that up and hopefully make even more positive impact, because there's certainly a lot that we have to do.
And speaking of that, we are going to transition.
And just to note, this is not the last time that you get to celebrate, because Nikki, I'm gonna be looking at you. Reminding the group.
I just have a very quick one. I like to celebrate the staff that I know is following through with this, with the students. And being very helpful and very thoughtful and supportive.
Flagpole requests, second reading. And we are moving on to items for discussion, motion for approval, or continue to the regular sessions. This is a second reading, so I will not take a motion unless you're, well, people think you're done with it, but I do have to say, Christina, I like the work you've done on that.
Yeah, is that okay?
Really cleaned it up, yeah.
Okay.
I didn't see anything that should be changed.
Yes. Pretty comprehensive policy.
Any comments? No? Perfect. Colleen?
I'm not sure where you would fit this in, but this is not my favorite policy. I understand wanting it and that we have a need, maybe, but I don't know. It just makes me a little anxious. Like, what?
Oh, transferable skills only has one arm, but Colleen, I agree with you. This is definitely not my favorite policy. It doesn't seem like it should be something, but knowing the climate we're in and to support our administrators as best we can, I think this is more of an insurance policy than anything else.
Yeah, I'll hold my nose. That's all.
Okay.
That's all I
See-
had.
I see the spelling error.
Elizabeth, some grammar support, letters, number 2, part C, should it be the superintendent's possessive or designee's written response?
Hang on, I'm just looking it up. Hold on.
Okay,
If the superintendent determines that one?
well, it's the superintendent or designee support, but shouldn't superintendent be possessive as well as their
I don't know,
designee?
which Where one is are the you? second line? I don't see that.
Are you on B?
I'm on C.
See, ours is if the superintendent determines a request to be ineligible. That's not what you have? Keep reading.
Keep reading. It's
Oh, okay.
the second sentence.
And the requester disagrees with the superintendent or the apostrophe S could go for superintendents. It's only needed once.
It is only needed once?
I think so. I think it's assumed that it's on superintendent too. But because of the or.
Right.
So
I wasn't sure. That's why I was asking.
it's very unimportant.
Okay.
So it's okay as is?
I don't
Okay.
think it matters either way.
Okay. Can you see?
I did teach grammar.
Yeah, so did I. But that never really hit that with fifth graders. And like you said, it was very important.
Right.
Not many fifth graders use dual possessives. Yeah, I have to agree with Colleen. This, I don't love the idea that we need to make something like this, but at this point, I find this comprehensively written. So.
Yeah, I appreciate too that, it does, it anticipates, if there were an appeal, if, it outlines some process around that because that can happen. But I also appreciate that, it's something that came up for the first time only recently. And I think that this policy kind of encapsulates how that happened. So it's consistent with how we have done this and then outlines more parameters for it. So,
yeah.
And
one of the nice things about this, and also one of the bad things is that this policy doesn't need a procedure. I mean, the procedure's written in it.
It's written into it.
Which makes it really hard to swallow the whole thing.
Sure.
At the same time, it kind of does away with the need for a procedure. Okay. E1, Title I, LEA Parent and Family Engagement, third reading. Again, an extremely long policy, but it looks good. I have no problem, and I will take a motion to, I should have did this first off because it is a third reading, to approve policy E1, Title I, Part A, LEA Parent and Family Engagement.
So moved, Davis.
Second, Rebecca.
Okay. Any discussion around this policy? Okay, because it's policy, I'll go around the world here. Colleen?
Aye.
Okay. Beth Roy?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Jamie?
Aye.
Anne Marie?
Aye.
Have I hit everyone up there?
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth, I don't see you up there, I'm sorry. No, you're right front and center, which is why I missed you.
Aye.
Mark? Davis?
Yeah.
Aye.
Meg?
Aye.
Nikki?
Aye.
Rebecca?
Aye.
Nancy?
Aye.
And I am an aye.
Okay, good. It's done.
So that is unanimous. Okay.
Glad that happens to you too, Bill.
First reading, dyslexia is a whole disease. B22, public complaints about personnel. This is, I actually think this is our second reading, isn't it?
Well,
Or
you
is this-
brought it last time, but it wasn't officially on the
That's right.
agenda,
Yeah.
so I put it as first read, but you can tell me to change it if you want.
So, I have to thank,
Okay,
But it means it's a broad, not just a person talking about what LEA.
yes, that's the legal entity in which approves, oversees special ed
And
and other,
and
any
other things.
financial sort of being,
so the
yeah.
L is legal?
Yeah.
No, local education agency, which can be like, your school district's a local education agency, but then it has a very specific connotation in special education as well.
Right. It's a very, realistically, and it's an extremely powerful term.
Very much.
Yes. Yeah.
Carries weight.
It's not something you mess with. I have to thank Christine. She took something that I suggested, and I believe you worked with this a little bit.
Yep.
And it's highlighted yellow.
Oh, this one?
Yeah.
Public complaints?
Yes.
Under resolving complaints.
I did read all of these.
Can I ask a question? Is it okay if I ask a question?
Sure.
I'm just wondering what, so if someone bypasses, and goes to Christine or one of the principals, and then it says they must make, necessary steps to create the safe and secure environment. So at that point, it's on the person they went to make those?
It's the immediate supervisor of the teacher or staff being complained to. That the complaint is in regards to.
Okay,
I think that could be a little clearer in the language.
so we're not asking the teacher just to go back to them, we're gonna help them set that up as well, okay, thank you.
Would
Is that unclear, Davis?
would it be clear to say the immediate administrative supervisor, or that, I just want to make sure that that's.
Then the immediate administrator.
Say that again.
Immediate administrator supervisor.
Yeah, or administrative supervisor. I don't know if that's conjuring up a term that doesn't really exist, but it's.
Well, either that or it might be helpful, because that is actually an educational term, immediate administrator. It might be useful to define that term within this policy.
Yeah, that would, yeah.
Can I make a broader statement?
Absolutely.
Thank you. I have a concern, and that is that it doesn't state that the board meeting is the final decision, and I don't think it is. I think it should state that if a desired outcome isn't reached, that the board will then advise next steps for the parents or something like that. And I'm saying that, thinking about different scenarios in my mind, like if a parent wanted to come complaining of a teacher or staff member harassing a student, particularly a student in a protected class, the parent really needs to know that there is recourse beyond the board if, for example, the board isn't well educated about such matters. Does that make sense?
No, not clear to me.
Well,
let me restate.
Elizabeth, can I comment first, or?
Yeah.
Okay, so my concern with that is before we dive into that within a school policy, what other legal recourse that a parent has within a school policy. That's a little scary to me, not because we can't do it, but I'm wondering if we can do it. What would Pietro say, for an example, is that within the policy, if you point to a legal procedure, what are the legal ramifications for that within a policy?
Well, I wasn't suggesting that we point to a legal procedure. I was suggesting that in a scenario where the board is assumed to have to not hold biases of certain types, the board has to is theoretically required to look at itself, to ask itself whether it holds those biases. I know this is a policy about approaching the board or about complaints about about personnel. I'm not looking right at it right now because I'm looking at you guys, but I don't think it's fair to parents to imply that that it ends with the board. I don't know that we need to put it in the policy, but I think we could imply an endpoint that the board would provide more information if that didn't work or something like that.
Well, Elizabeth, let me clarify. Christine and I had a discussion about this, especially around my suggestion. And, and we came to an understanding, which is important, that some of this could be in the policy and some should be in the procedure. And I was open to whatever she decided to do. I think what you're talking about really would be wonderful in a procedure.
I agree. I agree. Yes. As long as the procedure is attached to the policy.
Yes.
Yep. Thank you.
I also think that in
for
the,
hearing my concern.
But before we go on, Nancy had a question.
Oh, no, I'm okay.
You okay now?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just, Elizabeth's comments trigger a different policy. And so if it's harassment, then it falls under the hazing and harassment.
Right.
And so this just complaints about personnel. I mean, it does end here because if the board doesn't resolve it and it is in the harassment category, then we're following a different policy.
Right.
So
But
it
the
could go in the
would-
procedure. It could also be like referenced at the end, like
Right.
see other related policies.
Yes, I think that would be something that would go well in a procedure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, to refer another policy. 'Cause
Yeah.
That's kind of what Elizabeth is talking about, and you as well, is that we're jumping policies.
Right.
And so, and within this policy and within the procedure, that may be necessary. So, does that make sense, Elizabeth? Davis?
Yeah, I think just jumping back to, and I appreciated that was worth bringing up and having a procedure cover some of those different outcomes and how we can do that. But I do think that making sure that we have some definitions on this, immediate administrator, I know that last sentence, I think that I understand what it is saying, but it reads a little bit obtuse. In situations where the immediate administrator feels that a safe and secure environment is no longer possible, a personalized communication plan must be developed by the immediate administrator and superintendent and shared with the district board chair. That feels pretty vague to me. I know we don't want to be overly prescriptive in this, and I think that that's some intentional vagueness, but I do think that maybe by defining personalized communication plan or being slightly more descriptive without getting extremely descriptive, I just think that would be beneficial.
The reason it's vague and the reason it's put in there is the fact that Christine brought up quite rightfully is there are situations in which a parent communicating with a teacher is no longer a viable option.
Yep.
And so I agree with you 100% that the definition and so forth, but clarifying some of the steps within a procedure would be helpful.
Yeah.
And a personalized communication plan could be as simple as, you call me.
Right.
You don't call the teacher. And then that procedure's known. The teacher now knows that this parent isn't gonna be contacting them anymore.
Sure.
It's all gonna be going through the immediate supervisor or the school counselor or someone else.
Yep.
But then again, there were some parents that my wife has had in which the procedure was that a police officer would have to be within the building. That was actually,
We've had that
Yeah.
happen.
Well, I mean, that's kind of where I think just maybe having a little bit of like definition, a little bit more clarity around some of these terms that we're using. Because again, I understand why it's left a little bit open.
Yeah.
And why it's written this way. I don't think it necessarily needs to be rewritten, just as a, I think to the lay reader who might want to look at these and understand them more fully, it's a little obtuse.
but also one of the reasons when I first started to create this, and Christina's polished it nicely, putting in regard to immediate safety. Because
Immediate
safety, within the first line. And so if a parent has a concern that involves the immediate safety of a student, they shouldn't have to wait to communicate with the teacher. So, and they shouldn't be penalized or held back because that is an actual need. No. Any other comments? Maggie, did you have one, or was it?
The wording was just a little, I think we talked about it.
Yeah.
The clarity.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Policy adoption, new policies from VSBA. C28, transgender and gender non-conforming students. I did read this. It seems a little complicated. At the same time, it's a pretty complicated topic. So. At the same time, reading through it, it does a very nice job spelling out clearly the definition of gender identity and how it differs from, I think they call it
expression
and
Sexual orientation.
Sexual orientation and the birth gender, even though they don't use that term.
Cisgender.
Yes. Now, clarifying question. Is this a required policy? I don't think so.
I don't think it is. I think it's a recommended, but I'll check right now.
Is the student records piece already being done? Like, is that a big change to? I think it makes complete sense. I'm just curious.
No, some of that is new. The historical changing of genders of an identification, I've never considered that before. But what makes this policy good, not good. What's clear about it is it states within the legal confines. Okay, so we cannot change the legal identity of a student. A student can't change the legal identity. And within our SIS, those legal names, birthdays, must be consistent for our data system. For example, for federal reporting, anything like that, think we use names in federal reporting, actually, but in state reporting, we do. The same thing as naming staff, state reporting. They can't, their names don't have to be the legal names, but their names has to be the same name on their teaching license. And so, but within the extent that the SIS is capable of and the student records are capable of, we should use the preferred name as much as possible.
We've been doing for years.
Yeah.
It's recommended.
Yeah. Okay. SIS systems, Power School, Infinite Campus. I think Power School actually had Infinite Campus, but that has to do with state reporting.
We had that field ready to go before it ever happened.
Yeah.
And then it happened.
Yeah.
So we've used it.
But unfortunately, with any SIS in the state of Vermont, we still have to report two genders because the state data set system only accepts two genders. So, and I've reported that we can get around that. But nobody at our SIS will listen to us. There you go. Elizabeth.
A couple of points to put out there. One is that, oops, sorry, let me lower my hand. One is that what happens if just by this policy, what happens if a teacher continually uses a student's dead name and refuses to use their chosen name?
Wouldn't that be under the harassment policy?
Well, if spoken to by an administrator and they continue to do it, that is insubordination.
Yeah. So I feel like it would be kind to, if you're a student and you're referencing this policy, just to understand what protections you have as a transgender student, or as a teacher, both. I think it would be fine to provide a path for if the policy is not adhered to. What happens? Because
Well, I think that would be
the people who are going to be looking it up are the students.
Yeah.
That's my point.
Well, it should be I'm sorry, Christine, but I'm going to jump in. It should be a student-friendly procedure. So at Hartford, I didn't create the procedures, the students did. We had a student equity committee in high school that I handed it off to, which is very useful. So basically what the students can do is they can petition for a chosen name change within the SIS. Okay, so, and then their legal name is then put into their protected identities. And what that allows is their chosen name is then uploaded to any testing systems, state testing, and local testing. So they don't see their dead names on the report card, on the testing, and anything in which the school puts out. At the same time, though, there's two requirements for legal names: state reporting and transcripts. We cannot put a legal name on that.
Okay, but here's a scenario that I have heard so many times. A substitute teacher comes in and sees the roster and calls, through no fault of their own, goes down through the roster, and the student hears their dead name and then gets all kinds of flack for it.
Yeah.
So through this policy, my question is, through this policy, that changes?
Yes, within the SIS, which populates the attendance list, it would be their chosen name, not their legal name. and the legal name is put aside within the system in a protected identity to be used only in those two places in which it's legally required.
And
Okay.
how does the student go about getting?
That has to be in the procedure.
Okay, so my request is that it be written in more plain language so that students can understand it, and that the procedures, whatever they are, also be written in plain language.
Yeah.
All of our policies should be written in plain language anyway, and in my opinion, should not include the word shall. Because some of our policies use shall and some use will. But I think it should be written in plain language.
When based at Hartford, and I'm going to bring this up again, is that this form is in the counselor's office. Any student can pick it up. As part, the first step of the procedure is for them to meet with their counselor, and the counselor and the student fill it out and think about next steps. Which includes informing this parents, because that name will show up on the report card, right? So
that I happen to know that in from your Hartford's student rep on the board, that even though you had a procedure or policy in place, it was not always followed, and the student wrote their capstone on whether teachers, according to students, were following the policy, and they were not, and the board had to revisit the whole thing.
Yeah.
So
as you know,
I'd really love to spare those students of having to go through all of that.
Yes.
What about their diplomas?
That does not require a legal name.
Okay.
It's transcripts and state reporting. That's it.
Good.
Yeah, it's a relatively new thing at Hartford, and it started 2 years ago when we had the high school had a speaker on dead names. And it was a very powerful piece, because then the teachers got it and then enough of them, it sort of tipped the scales. So then I actually handed it off to Melissa Wyman, who ran the Student Equity Committee. They came up with the procedure, which now middle school is using.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not saying our procedure is perfect, but you're absolutely right. It has to be, how they do it needs to be out there.
Yep.
You know, on the topic of plain language.
Come on, Opie. Your stuff with mom is pouring out.
Oh, yeah.
That's an interesting point you made, that the teachers went over the policy. Someone went over the policy with the teachers, and I'm wondering, does that ever happen here? I mean, we do create policies here. Is that a discussion that teachers get an opportunity to not only hear, but chime in on?
Some of the ones that are really pertinent, yeah. Well, the principals, I'll say this policy was passed, you need to talk to your staff about it. This one definitely would generate a lot of conversation, I'm sure. So,
Davis?
Yeah, what I was sort of noting is that, well, I appreciate that this policy as a whole may not be entirely written in the plainest language. One thing I do appreciate how well it's cited. I think it is comprehensive, and it does point to where this, where this advice and precedent is coming from. But I do think, speaking on plain language, the second paragraph of it is very plain and very powerful, I think. In saying that, essentially WSESU is, the policy is to provide a safe, orderly, civil, and positive learning environment for all students, regardless of perceived or actual sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, or gender expression. That to me is very clear.
Well, this policy was written by the legal team.
Yeah.
For sure, because it's been under scrutiny across the
Yes.
nation.
Mhm.
So if we're gonna change pieces of it, I would want to run it by our legal counsel, to be honest
Of
with
course,
you.
yeah.
I have no desire to change any piece of it.
Okay.
I think the procedure
Is where
would be
it's student friendly.
where the rubber will meet the road for our community
Yeah,
and
and
our
I'm gonna-
students and teachers to know about it.
Yeah,
But
I'm
I
in
do want to
full
clarify
agreement.
something that you said. And this is important, the staff in the high school didn't go over the policy. They had a speaker on the topic, which I think was more powerful than just going over the policy. So having someone who understands and able to, and not necessarily is an expert in the area, but this person was an expert in the area about their names, to discuss it with a whole staff and have a discussion where I had teachers then that I interacted who then got it. And so
Is that a local person?
I have no idea. I can email Melissa
Yeah, that'd be
Lyman
great.
about it.
Okay.
I know our middle school teachers spend a lot of time calling kids by the names they want to be called. And so, and this seems to be transferring right into the high school.
Yeah. Our middle school tech person spent a lot of time altering Google names.
Here?
No, at Hartford.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, wow.
Yeah, so because in your Google account, your Google email, your name pops up, which is a really easy fix, but, you know, it's, they go to him and I want to be, my name to be so-and-so, and he changes it.
I think it's a really important policy to have right now, and so the fact that it's being brought up and shared and possibly bring someone in to talk to the teachers, maybe even carry more weight.
Agreed.
Any other input? Thank you. Very lively discussion. F27, new communicable disease mitigation measures from what?
Students and staff.
Student and staff, thank you.
Yep.
I'm just reading there. Again, this must have been under the eyes of the legal team for a while.
Yeah.
It's a well-written policy.
Very relevant.
Yeah. Yes. And again, I'm not asking for a motion because this is just the first reading.
You know, if you had a health teacher, your health teacher would be.
Right.
Yeah.
And a lot of these fit right into the realm of the nursing staff. But I like how they cite the relevant Vermont areas. Megan?
Would any of this change if the nurses were at the SU level and not the school district level?
No, I don't believe so. You know, yeah. I mean, it's, if you look at the special ed staff, okay, you know, the special ed staff is not, they're focused on the individual schools that they're working in any school district that I'm involved in. Okay? They want to be known as, I'm working at this school, okay, even though they are supervised in some ways by the SU. And I imagine the same thing with, or at least, you know, we all attempt to supervise.
It's a share, it's
It gets
shared.
late, we're bungee.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's a shared
Responsibility.
It's a responsibility, yeah.
Doesn't do that.
Yeah, I appreciate that it does touch on the health education piece of this though.
Yeah.
You know, and even though, you know, again, maybe going back to flag policy, like you, feels weird to have to say this maybe, but like it's nice that it outlines that in a comprehensive health education, you would cover communicable diseases, different types of communicable disease, disease prevention. I mean, it's worth stating and having at a policy level. And then obviously developing procedures around it lower down. And the same thing with athletics too, because I know that can be a sticky subject with this, in brief and intentionally vague policy terms does kind of outline that reasonable accommodations can be made. So, yeah.
Yeah. I think it's important for students to know that this stuff will really mess you up. Bubonic plague, meningitis. I mean, I've had, I don't know anyone who's had Ebola, but meningitis, oh goodness. Any comments, concerns?
I had to look up anthropoid. Do you know what it means? I mean, I didn't think it was a real word.
Yeah.
It's enlightened us, Angie.
Belonging or pertaining to the primate suborder.
Yeah.
So
No, I had to look it up.
Yeah.
I think. I prefer the word simian.
Resembling humans, yeah.
Simian would be a better word.
So I'd have to look that up too.
Anthropoids.
Yeah. More scientific name. Okay. I think that's a good first reading. A20. Moving along, board meetings, agenda preparation and distribution.
Seems to be a policy of the things we do.
Yeah. And what's nice about the policy is other people can look at what steps we're supposed to have.
Oh, I love that though.
Yeah.
I don't see anything out of view in there.
Well, regular meeting schedule, this section I'm confused about. Regular meetings of the board will be held at.
In the current policy that this replaces that we had, it says regular meetings of the Windsor Southeast Supervisory Union Board and Heartland, Montescutney, and Weathersfield School Boards will be held at a time, day, and location to be determined at the reorganization annual meeting
That
and
makes-
appropriately warned. So
Oh, yeah, we might need to insert
just
that.
insert that into this one, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because.
Yep.
Yeah, now that we've,
I think that determined, that sentence will be determined.
Yeah.
It's that overly prescriptive thing
Yeah.
showing up here.
Yeah.
if we vote on it, we all say, oh, everyone's gonna meet at the same
That's
time.
Right.
It's like, me trying to deal with going to, staff meetings, because they all happen at the same time.
Right.
Elizabeth?
Thanks. In this case, municipality means for the board, the district board that I serve on, it means 2 towns. So can we include something that says in a 2-town district, at least one of those has to be in each town?
I think you would decide that at your reorganization meeting, wouldn't you? Or do you
Where
want it to-
where the agendas are posted?
I thought you were on regular meeting schedule, so.
2 other designated physical locations in each municipality. Just change the word out of each.
Yeah.
Yeah, in each municipal clerk's office, yeah.
So our municipality is Mount Escutney School District, and which is composed of 2 towns. Can we add a sentence that says in a district composed of more than 1 town, the agenda shall be distributed in both towns?
Each town.
In town.
Municipalities.
Or all member towns or something like that?
Yeah.
The municipality is not the town that per se.
Elizabeth, I can't even spell municipality, so.
Muni,
Yeah, so, no, I'm just using Google.
Skippy,
So how does that work presently, Elizabeth, with the posting of the agenda?
presently, it's supposed to be, I think, I'm not sure whether Lori does all of the posting.
She does.
Because I know, because we have April Sykes doing it in Brownsville. But just for the sake of continuity, I would prefer to just have something in there saying all of the towns of a municipality.
Is this a physical posting or?
No.
Yes.
Elizabeth, I think the municipality, the clerk's office, that's.
The municipality, no, the municipality is the district.
But we don't have a clerk, do we? The school district
We
clerk.
have Larry now. We have,
Unfortunately, you do.
Has Larry.
Okay.
No one's gonna see it in his office though.
So Lori sends them electronically to the schools. The school administrative assistant posts them in the school, so Albert Bridge and Windsor.
Okay.
And then, and Heartland and Weathersfield. And then Lori, since we've had concerns about where they were posted, brought up in meetings, she hand delivers them to the post offices. And I believe the town clerk's office, yeah.
Okay.
So she's taking them every month and posting them.
Okay.
Wow.
If the issue here is that in this policy as written, when the word municipal comes up here, it's referring to the town clerk. Would it be a problem just to change it to in each town clerk's office? Or would that cause some kind of
It's more than that.
Sorry.
linguistic
I think
snafu?
that's the intent of this paragraph here.
I think it's the intent, but
Yeah, it's not clear, and I agree with Elizabeth on
Yeah.
that. It posted in the.
In each town clerk's office, in addition,
In
it
each,
shall be posted to 2 other locations in each municipality. I think that's.
No,
So that-
not municipality. In each town.
Each
Yes.
town.
and 2 other locations in each town.
So Mount Scotty, that'd be 4.
Yep.
theoretically.
Yeah.
yeah, I
Right.
think just getting rid of saying town because that's what it means here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that makes
In
sense.
addition.
I mean, if you think about it, in order to make it clearer, when we have the school annual meeting separate from the town meeting, that's why, because they're 2 separate municipalities.
Yep. Yeah, I think maybe just in general, because of the confusion that kind of somewhat of this term causes, maybe just trying to stick to school town language.
Yeah.
Because again, like lay understanding of that, it can kind of, most people, when they see municipality are gonna automatically think town, but in a legal sense, it's not necessarily true.
Okay.
Okay. I wrote those notes
Any
down.
other comments? Good point, Elizabeth. E20, new, again, we're just getting hit here. Community use of school facilities.
That's the one that's not ready
Yeah.
yet, so.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
So you're off the hook. Off the hook tonight.
Okay, setting the next agenda.
E20?
Hmm?
E20, I
If-
assume?
If it's
Yeah, each one.
available,
It's done cooking?
Is it available?
if it's available, we'll have it for next month.
Okay.
That'll be a first read. Okay.
I don't think I'd like to do this for next meeting or even meeting after. But one of our goals here is to work on communications with community and staff. So instead of me hearing it as a school board member from the powers to be in the community, i.e. parents, I would really like staff and at another point, community to meet with us at one of these meetings to discuss their feeling of the report card. Because that really is the, I mean, when you talk about communication with the community and members or constituency, the report card really is a major piece of communication. And it's not this board's job to create the report card, but I'd like to hear from people what they think about it. Yes.
Just to be clear, are we talking about student report cards?
Student report cards,
Okay,
yes.
cool.
Yep.
Didn't know if there was some other sort of larger institutional report card you were bringing. You know, 'cause that's another term that gets thrown around a lot. It
Yes,
doesn't mean a lot
it
of
does.
things, but yes.
Yeah.
I
I thought you were talking about the AOE report.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So you want staff, did you say staff?
Staff, yeah.
To come to the board meeting and discuss their feelings about the report
Yeah,
card?
I not so much to discuss it as much as I'd like to hear, and I'd like to hear from parents, their feelings of the report card.
Okay.
That may be a good question for your next,
That's
Yeah,
why I
for
was-
September, yeah,
That's why
yeah.
I was pushing it out a little bit.
Yeah, that's great.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
That'd be a good one.
Totally.
So
Okay.
think about that.
Yeah.
And can maybe, you may end up also getting writing comments.
Elizabeth, you had something you wanted to put down before I.
Yeah,
jump
I just wanted to suggest that it might be good for us to hear about the YRBS from Melanie Sheehan at the SU board.
So what she had asked, Elizabeth, she came to the Mount Escutney board meeting.
I know.
And but what she said was, this really should be presented by students. And I believe Kate is going to be working on the getting to why that she tried to do last year, but the report wasn't ready. So Melanie made that recommendation. She said, it shouldn't really be me. It should be, I'm happy to come and do it, Mount Escutney, but the kids should come and talk about it with the SU board or the local boards.
I think that's a great idea. That's a really great idea. But I just think that it would be useful, regardless of who does it, for our supervisory union board to hear it.
Yeah.
It was good for our, and I think that one of the things I regret about when Melanie came to our board was that we didn't discuss it afterwards. We just listened to Melanie and then moved on. And so for our board, it'll be on the next agenda, but a discussion of it. But I think having students there, being able to explain the data there, and having us be able to ask them questions will kind of lead to a better, more robust discussion.
I can follow up with Kate to make sure she's still working on that for this year. We have the presentation. Melanie shared it, so we can definitely look at it at the next meeting, with or without kids if they're not ready, if that's what you want.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but she had it broken out by age groups, right?
I believe so.
It's not just K-12, it's 9 through 12, and then K-8 or K whatever. So it is relevant to our whole supervisory union, is what I was.
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
I mean, but I'd love to, even if we have to wait a couple months, 3 months to hear students explain it.
Yeah.
It would hold my attention better.
I'll talk to Kate. That'll be first on my list.
And for those who don't know what I'm talking about, it's the YRBS is the survey put out by the CDC and the Center for Disease Control, and YRBS stands for Youth Risky Behavior Survey, and it's done every other year. And it took like an extra year and a half to get the results from 2019 or out to us. And they're already working on the next administration of the next, or they've already had the next round of surveys administered. So we're already almost waiting for another one. That's why sooner rather than later, because soon we'll be waiting for the next one, which should be out this spring.
I think the idea of the students presenting is really.
Yeah, I'll make sure,
I
I'll
think-
ask her if she's still planning to
Yeah,
do
that
that.
would not only hold my attention, but I think it would hold the community attention also.
So Christine, as far as policy work,
Mhm.
I mean, we have a lot of policies we're looking at. I'm happy to put them all on the next agenda with a note that says, as time allows.
Okay,
Yeah. Either that, I think that just makes more sense than saying, we're only gonna look at these three
Yeah.
next.
as time allows, yep.
So,
Okay.
And also, I don't know when that's going to happen, but I know Larry's already talking about the budget committee meeting, and I'm wondering, if we can start talking about, the budget and, bringing that.
I won't have anything ready
He's-
until October.
He's in October. Next
Yeah.
month, Angie's coming, continuous improvement plan and new curriculum programs update. That was on our schedule.
And it will be the ESSER three plan too updates, because I'll have the amendment.
Yeah,
so exciting.
so exciting.
Again, anytime that you feel it would be worth adding, staff support for, grant writing. I'm just throwing that out there again. I know what a task that is, so. I'm not
It won't
suggesting,
be so bad after
yeah.
ESSER goes away.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, any other thing about the next month in particular?
So I've got my report. You want some YRBS, if we can bring that. If the
Mhm.
students aren't ready, we can do that later.
Yeah.
Tracy, Angie, and then policy review as time allows.
Yeah.
And then the staff parent input on the report card is really geared to the question of the month and then bringing back the data. Okay,
And then
Good.
arranging at some point
for them to come.
Yeah. and share their thoughts.
Okay.
In order hopefully to be able to create an environment where they know for this time, we're here to listen to you.
Okay.
Okay. Are we in need of an executive session? Okay, I will take a motion to end this SU board meeting.
So moved.
Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Abstentions? Thank you all. It's been a great night.
Stop the recording.